my name is Lorena. Thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel and viewing this video. In this one, we are going to have a look at Ghislaine Maxwell's birth chart, and we're trying to figure out what happened through her transits as well to see how all of her conviction aligned with her transits and all of that. If you're new here, make sure that you click the subscribe button and follow me on my socials. I do produce a lot of astrology content and do birth chart readings on celebrities. So if you like that kind of content, make sure that you subscribe. Let's just dive in. This is her birth chart. I want to have a look at some indicators of having troubles with law in her life and also what is the source of that. And straight out of the bat, I am looking at her birth chart and I see that she has a lot of Capricorn energy, which is focused around her 8th house. So you can see here she has her Sun, Mercury, and Mars in her 8th house, which is straight out a red flag to me. Now, by the way, this is a disclaimer. All of the placements that you will see discussed in this birth chart are not one-to-one correlators to fellowship or, people who are criminals. So if you have any of these in your birth chart, they can mean a lot of things. This is why we say that the birth chart is actually showing your potential throughout your life and your overall energy. You still have the power to make decisions in your life. You have the power to decide whether you're going to be a criminal or not. So this is definitely not a one-to-one correlation, but it can show some challenges in her life and some directions through which she could have chosen. So she ended up on this path because of this. So first of all, she has a Sun in the 8th house, and people with a Sun in the 8th house usually have pretty good perception when it comes to the values of people. So you either have someone that is very compassionate and who wants to research and find out about the way that people's minds work and read and all of that, or you get people who actually can use their research powers or their understanding of other people's psyches for manipulation. Her placements are also happening to be in Capricorn. And Capricorn is it's a zodiac sign that is a divine masculine energy by default. So what we usually see is that women, especially with a Capricornian dominant energy, they tend to exhibit a lot of masculine traits. Now, every person is made out of divine feminine and divine masculine energy. So just because she has this Capricorn energy doesn't make her more of a man, and it doesn't mean that men are bad or anything like that. But we know that divine feminine energies are all about compassion and emotions and mothering people, being in touch with your heart's true desires, creativity. And then the masculine traits are all about, being serious, authoritarian, even seeking social status, success. So definitely she's I don't want to say power hungry, but because she has her South Node in the 10th house is a Capricorn house by default, she has lived a lot of her past lifetimes in this energy of Capricorn. She has lived in this energy of wanting to be serious, very focused on social status, on social gains, and her life purpose, because the North Node is in the 4th house and in Leo, it was to open up to being more compassionate and also to form her own home environment, to be kind towards those in her home and in the home that she forms for herself. This doesn't necessarily mean that her purpose was or is to form a family, but rather to open up to what is intuition, so to open up more to divine feminine energy. So I feel like her soul has a lot of experience living in this divine masculine. Her soul really has an experience of being a ruler, an authoritarian figure, not necessarily in touch with her feelings. So the fact that she has all of this Leo energy in her chart coming from her moon as well, she doesn't necessarily have that maternal approach to the moon. She has to learn it throughout her life. She has to learn how to be compassionate and how to exhibit her creativity and her desire to be creative and appreciated through a healthy way and more of a maternal or divine feminine energy. So why do I think she's not familiar with this? Well, the 5th house is the house of Leo by default, and whenever I see Leo placements and whenever I see anything happening in the 5th house, I correlate them with each other. This is because the 5th house is the house of Leo by default, and it refers to creativity, fun, children even, and she has a Pluto and a Lilith in the 5th house. Now, neither of these placements are problematic on their own in the 5th house. Pluto is the planet of rebirth and transformation, And she also has it at the 10th degree, which is a Capricorn degree. Remember, she has all of those Capricorn energies, and Capricorn is all about destruction. So she's literally bringing a very destructive approach to the way that she's handling children and the way that she's handling her Leo energy. Now, remember, her North Node being the 4th house, her life direction is to open up to Leo energy in a way which is maternal. But because she has this Plutonic energy in the 5th house, which usually means that you would be a protective mother, by the way, sometimes controlling, but a little bit of a protective mother. For her, it doesn't come from that divine feminine compassionate place. It comes from the place of her Capricorn energy, where she has a full-on stellium happening. Now, what is Lilith about? Lilith is a placement that speaks about where the dark side of ourselves comes to surface, and usually people who have Lilith in the 5th house are strict in their lives. They're strict when it comes to them showing their creativity. They're strict when it comes to parenting. So if you have a Lilith in your 5th house, don't panic. That doesn't make you a criminal. Definitely someone who'd want to sexually traffic children. Absolutely not. But it does sometimes indicate the fact that there's some strictness and seriousness through which you approach children or the idea of parenting. And actually have personal connections with people with this placement, and they're extraordinary parents, but they do parent their children from a more strict perspective, and I think that is the bottom line here. Now, when you combine Lilith and Pluto in the 5th house and they're also conjunct, this means that a lot of transformative energy and transformative experiences in her life are going to come through the strict way in which she handles her relationships with her children. Which is interesting, right? Because we have already explained the fact that she doesn't have that Cancer energy in her chart. Now, the third red flag that I see here is that she has a Chiron in her 10th house opposing Lilith and Pluto in the 5th house. Chiron is an asteroid that speaks about the healing work. It reflects the healing that a person needs to address in life. And sometimes the healing comes as a result of major experiences that really make you face the dark side of yourself, and as a result of that, you give in and find compassion in the end. So that is definitely something to note. But also the Chiron in the 10th house can feel like her upheaval or her healing work that needs to be addressed in this life will happen in the area of her social status. Now, because she has a South Node in her 10th house, her soul naturally seeks the social status. She naturally seeks to be well known and to be seen as someone unconventional. Her 10th house in Aquarius shows that she wants to be part of a community and she wants to bring people together. But the way that she is doing that is not in a healthy and compassionate way to which you would expect from a woman, or someone with a lot of feminine energy in their chart. But she does that from a place of almost like greed, right? Because Capricornian dominant energy put in a person that is not in touch with her feminine nature does tend oftentimes to go into toxicity. So Chiron in the 10th house, as I mentioned, will show healing work being addressed as part of her social status and career. Now, the fact that this opposes her Lilith and Pluto in the 5th house tells me that the source of the healing work is going to be her relationship with children and her relationship with parenting, but also her relationship with her own creative side. People usually with moons in Leo tend to be quite kind towards others. They genuinely want to help people. Of course, you can see someone with the moon in Leo and feel like they are bragging about their talents a little bit too much. And this is because the people with the moon in Leo actually benefit from having good words coming from the people around them. That's what feeds their creativity. But we also get the people that are not actually in touch with their energy. They are not high vibrational, they're low vibrational, they're energy suckers, and then they exhibit the negative traits of Leo, which is, of course, arrogance, look at me, look how I'm shining, and so on and so forth. So that is definitely interesting. But I would say with the moon in the 4th house, this usually exhibits a person that has a pretty good relationship with her mother. So I'm not sure what her relationship was like with her mother, but usually the mother is the most important person through which she would see the energy that helps her progress towards her soul purpose. Now, I know her father was pretty problematic. I know they both passed away in 1991, I believe. So definitely that was quite a long time before she actually started the sexual trafficking activities with Jeffrey Epstein. But I genuinely believe if her mother was to be around a little bit more, their relationship would have been very transformative. And in theory, it would have helped her get more in tune with her maternal side. I wanted to just point out the beautiful geometry of the chart. So we have the Capricorn and stellium that we talked about being in the 8th house. The 8th house is the house of transformation, inner transformation, and also death and rebirth. So oftentimes people with this placement have a natural understanding of other people's values, as I mentioned earlier, but also go through periods in their lives where they completely have to cut themselves in half, look inside, what the heck is wrong here, put everything out, and then have a rebirth from that moment. So I think this is definitely one of those times where she would need to transform that energy and finally progress towards her soul purpose, which is embodying Cancer energy. Alrighty, yes, the Sun, Mercury, and Mars connect actually with a sextile over to her Chiron and with the trine over to her Lilith and Pluto. This means that whilst we have this opposition going around between career and whatever is happening with her relationship with children, her Capricornian nature will be the main instrument through which she will experience that transformation. So this can mean a lot of things. But I would say the main problem here, or the main instrument that we need to look at, is that the Sun in Capricorn is not just all about authority, but it's also kill or be killed placement, okay? So she would have to kill a lot of her inner attitudes towards her relationship with children in order to heal. And in the birth chart, we see that this energy ultimately, although it makes her sometimes too masculine or too power hungry, it also helps her in the end to experience that scorpionic rebirth and progress towards her soul purpose, which is the end goal. Alrighty, so next I wanted to show you some interesting transits happening. So obviously this is July 2020. She was actually charged for aiding Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse minors and sexually traffic them on July 2nd of 2020, and the trial just happened recently in 2021, and she was found guilty just after Christmas, ironically enough right after her birthday. So instead of showing you the transits for today and yesterday when she was actually found guilty, I want to go back to July of 2020. And how interesting is it to note that exactly in July of 2020 she was experiencing her Saturn return. A Saturn return, if you do not know, is an astrological transit that happens once every about 30 years of your life. It's when the Saturn on the sky comes back to its initial position, which for her is at 28 degrees in the 9th house and in Capricorn. Now, Saturn in Capricorn and in the 9th house correlates to a karma of... First of all, having a spiritual rebirth. The 9th house is all about higher wisdom. It's about higher learning. The Saturn in the 9th house kind of amplifies the bad things in the Capricornian energy to also make her feel like she knows it all. And when you have a Saturn return in the 9th house, you have to go through a religious or spiritual rebirth, because connecting with source will reveal to you all the things that you did wrong, and it's also a very humbling experience. So definitely what happened in July of 2020 was a transit that really brought the lessons and the karma back to her. Now, you don't just get lessons in the area where you have your 9th house. You get lessons everywhere in your life. Saturn is a planet that represents the teacher. It also represents karma, as I mentioned earlier. But in general, whatever Saturn touches in your chart, it brings a lot of changes and responsibilization to that area of life. So she actually had Saturn transiting Capricorn in 2019 as well. So definitely the energy was building up. She knew that she was investigated. She knew all of those things. But actually in July of 2020, she had Saturn reaching her native Saturn, which ended up with her being arrested. So that is what happened then. I wanted to have a look at yesterday's transits. So definitely, I don't think we're going to see something extremely important. just because this is a work in progress over so many years, but we do see a lot of things that are interesting. And the very first one that I'm noticing is the fact that Saturn is on top of her 10th house. Now, she doesn't have a good relationship with Saturn, although she has so much energy in Capricorn in her chart. Actually, Saturn really, really messes her transits up. Whenever she gets an activation with Saturn, it appears that something negative is happening in her life, objectively, and I think subjectively too. Saturn entering the 10th house, and especially Saturn touching the midheaven, means in general a change of career if you interpret this for the usual person, but it can also mean a change in social status, just to make this a bit more general. What does a change in social status mean, however? Well, it can mean that you change your name. So you can get married when Saturn enters your 10th house. You can think of the fact that people see you as a different person because you're no longer a miss, you're a missus, or you're no longer single, you're married. Another kind of difference that we notice here is so when Saturn enters the 10th house, you can experience a career change because your title changes. People oftentimes finish their doctorates when they have Saturn entering their 10th house. So there's something usually quite good happening in the area of the 10th house. It's usually something that needs to happen. So of course, you may be aware that in life we are the creators of our own reality, so we can just go through life and make whatever decisions we want. But Saturn activations are kind of like checkpoints. So we are meant to be at different places in our lives, maybe to meet certain people that we had soul contracts with. So usually when we get a Saturn activation, that person or that situation comes along. Now, if we were kind of running around doing a lot of shitty activities and, becoming sexual traffickers, just wait until your Saturn return, because that's when all the lessons are coming around to you. So Saturn entering her 10th house means that something as part of her social status had to change to better align her with her actions and for the karma to come back. And her being found guilty during this transit reflects that this is the karma that comes for her. Now, something very interesting that happened actually yesterday is the fact that the Sun is conjunct her Mercury. Now, you may know she was born on the 25th of December. We can see this information over here, actually. She has that means that she has gone through a solar return pretty recently. Now, her Sun being on top of her Mercury is not necessarily something that I look for specifically, because the Sun is a very fastly moving planet, and in transits we don't really look for fast planets. We don't look for inner planets. However, Mercury is her chart ruler. Her ascendant being in Gemini is ruled by Mercury, is going to make Mercury the planet that rules her life. So in general, if something life-changing happens, you want to see the chart ruler involved, either positively or negatively. I'm looking at this Chiron over here. So we have established the fact that her Chiron in her natal chart is pretty responsible to the healing work that needs to be addressed in her life, and that is in her relation with her social status. So interestingly enough, Saturn will enter Pisces pretty soon. So let's have a look at when that happens. Okay, so in a year from now, at the end of 2022, Saturn will definitely still be lingering through Aquarius. Definitely looking at the end of 2022, particularly towards November. In November, Saturn will be on top of her South Node, so definitely some past life experience will be brought to light. She will have to heal something as part of her past. So we have established that Saturn activations are actually pretty powerful for her, so definitely expecting something to happen then. But the moment that I'm actually looking at is when Saturn touches her Chiron. Now, I don't think this is the very first time when we have a transit Saturn conjunct Chiron activation. So let me just have a look a couple of months earlier. Okay, let's go month by month. So the very, very first one happens in March of 2023. Saturn will enter Pisces at some point at the beginning of 2023, and it will reach 2 degrees around the end of March. And you may feel this energy whenever Saturn touches something in your chart. Usually feel this most emphasizedly when Saturn touches the exact same degree. but you can also see it within a 1 degree orb. So when it's at 1 degrees, when it's at 3 degrees, you can still feel the pressure building up. Yeah, so March definitely will be an opportunity for her to heal. Lilith on the sky is also entering her 4th house. Now remember, Lilith represents a pretty dark side of yourself, and whatever it touches, sorry, my cat knocked some crystals on the ground. And whenever Lilith touches something, there is some intense dark energies being brought up to surface that are necessary to be healed. Now, that entering her 4th house, where her sole purpose is, leads me to believe that 2023 will be the year of redemption for her. So obviously she has been charged with life in prison. She has been convicted with life in prison. I don't know what's the right way of wording this. But I would definitely be very curious to follow what happens throughout 2023. So we have established March is the very first activation here around her Chiron. In July, Lilith will reach her North Node. And at the same time, the Pluto on the sky, this is happening throughout 2022 and 2023, by the way. Pluto is kind of tingling on top of her Saturn too. Now, this is very, very interesting to me. And I'll put this into context. The US is going to go through the US Pluto return. And if you do not know, in the US's birth chart, natal chart, we have a Pluto in the 2nd house at 27 degrees. Now, Pluto has been in Capricorn for the past couple of years, ever since 2010, if I'm not wrong, or 2009, 2010. And ever since, we have seen a lot of transformation in terms of our money, right? Inflation has been a really big deal. The crashing of the housing market was the very first event that actually marked the Pluto's entrance in Capricorn, and it was a very transformative event that led to a lot of changes in terms of how we handle our money. Now, why do I think this is interesting? During a Pluto return, a country changes a lot. A lot of the time, the country disappears completely. Other times, there's a major destruction so that things can be reconstructed again. Because it happens in the 2nd house for the US, I feel like, it's not just me feeling this, there's a lot of astrologers talking about this. There's going to be some sort of financial restructure because the wealth inequality has just reached huge, enormous amounts. We have inflation to a point where transitory inflation is no longer the right term to describe it as. We are having our money devalued day by day at the hyperinflation rate. So definitely people are going to become more and more aware of this problem. They're already very enraged by the situation, and very, very likely between 2022 and 2024, Pluto will be tingling between the 27th and the 29th degree. So likely this transformation will take about 2 years to complete. This can imply even the government falling. And why do I see this reflected in her birth chart? Well, Saturn for her is in Capricorn at 28 degrees because Pluto will tingle 27, 28, 29, 28, 27, 28, 29 throughout the next 2 years. She will have this karmic intense transformation in her chart. It feels like she can have the power to bring the whole government down with her. And I don't know who went on that island, but if she will confess. I'm 100% sure she will confess and give out names. She will snitch 100%. Remember, she went through a Saturn return when she was charged with that, when she was arrested. Pluto is a planet that brings a lot of destruction and rebirth as long with that. So the destruction here has already been done. The destruction here has already been done. She has been found guilty, but now she has nothing else to lose. And this transit just confirms the fact that if she wants to snitch, she is gonna do it. So the whole of 2022, 2023, and 2024 looks like dealing with repercussions of her snitching, or she's dealing with, I feel she's gonna feel quite guilty. I mean, I definitely do not know what decisions she's gonna make as to whether she's gonna apologize. To be honest with you, I don't know if that makes a difference, but I'm not a victim, and that lies with them. But what I feel here is that She's gonna be like, I got nothing else to lose. I'm just gonna start snitching. So here we go to Prince Andrew's birth chart. What I find really interesting is that he also has a 28-degree Capricorn Venus. What does Venus rule for him? Well, Venus rules Taurus and Libra. His 4th house starts in Libra, and Taurus is in his 10th house. Now, in whole sign astrology, his 10th house is actually ruled by Taurus, so we would say that his social status is actually impacted by the exact same Pluto reaching 28 degrees at the same time that Ghislaine Maxwell has that exact same transit. So that's interesting. He's gonna be the very first name she pits out of her mouth. She's gonna be like, him? Oh yeah. Oh, shooting weekend? No, we brought girls to him. And 100% that's going to happen. And what other thing I'm noticing here is that Mars is very close by. Mars is the actual ruler of his 10th house. Mars is the planet that rules his 10th house because his midheaven is in Aries in Placidus. So in February, Pluto will reach 27 degrees in Capricorn. So let me show you the transit for that. Actually. So 1 month later. Okay, so January, February. Let's go for February. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see, this is Pluto at 27 degrees in Capricorn. This is his Mars over here. So that is the activation that I was talking about. At the same time, the South Node on the sky is approaching his moon, and his moon rules the 12th house of mental health. Definitely expecting him to be very put down emotionally by this. Whatever happens, he's gonna feel very upset. At the same time, at the beginning of 2022, the Lilith on the sky will be transiting his 11th house, but more particularly, he's experiencing a Lilith return. Remember, Lilith is all about dark energy, so definitely something extremely dark happening. Lilith in his natal chart being in the 11th house shows that Prince Andrew actually has quite a naturally bad relationship with friends, or he finds he has a pretty hard time to integrate within society or to be accepted. Him having this Lilith return, it feels like an event is going to trigger that even more, and it all happens at the same time as Pluto touching his career ruler. I think he's the very first name that she's gonna spit out. She's gonna be like, okay, she's gonna be in a cell. Finally, she's found guilty. She's been brought to the jail. She's like, ma'am, I would like to speak. Everyone's gonna be brought down with me. This is gonna be huge, honestly. But yeah, guys, that is pretty much what I wanted to talk about with you today. So I hope you enjoy this. If you definitely want to find out more, definitely subscribe. Make sure that you leave a comment and hit the like button if you enjoy this. If you want to learn more, or if you want to be more in touch with what I post, make sure that you follow me on TikTok and Instagram. That is where I'm most active. But yeah, apart from that, I wish you guys all the best and take care of yourselves. Bye bye.